You're in the 06010.
What's good, friends? Welcome into Fantasy Focus Football, presented by Little Caesars alongside Stephania Bell and Field Yates. My name is Daniel Dopp, and I can tell you guys one guy that was happy about 15% off Little Caesars yesterday, and that was Trevor Lawrence on his birthday. That man balled out. I'm pretty sure he had some pizza before the game. That's the only way. I think that's what it was. Absolutely. Yeah. We had a very fun Monday Night Football game. It was all over the place, actually. Everywhere. It was very entertaining. Yeah. Yes, it was. We're going to dive into that as well as our waiver wire, a bunch of injury updates. We're going to field in the blanks towards the end of the show. But I want to start, first and foremost, I want to say shout out to our friends at Trophy Smack. Head on over to TrophySmack.com. Use the promo code FOCUS10 for 10% off your first order over at Trophy Smack. And let's talk about this Monday Night Football game. Also, our friend Eric Moody is in the chat. So if you have questions for us, go hang out in the chat with our buddy at Eric N. Moody. We had a lot of questions earlier this week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Oh, yes, we'll get into that. That is accurate. We'll get into that. Well, let's dive into Monday Night Football, my friends.
Monday night.
Big takeaways here. How about just first and foremost, not a fantasy reaction, but just like shout out to the Jaguars,
man.
What
a crazy game that was.
Great win.
I still don't know how they won that game last night because I was thinking about it. I was like, Mahomes was outstanding last night. Yep. The running game actually was effective. Of course, somebody needed like 18 points from Kareem Hunt to beat me in a matchup, and they got it.
Of course.
Ouch. It's like, it was like 37 yards and 2 touchdowns and like whatever it was. It was ugly, but still, I thought the Chiefs played pretty well last night. They didn't allow a single sack. It was a game that was in some ways defined by seminal moments and perhaps none bigger. Two bigger. I guess there were the two biggest ones were one, Devin Lloyd taking a 99-yard interception return for a touchdown. And then later on in the game, Trevor Lawrence, with an opportunity to potentially win the game, trips, gets up, and rushes in for a touchdown. So a wild game all the way around.
That was the Stumble Bomb 2.0.
A Stumble Bomb. Or somebody call it the Stumble-rooski.
Yeah.
I think that was,
worked.
I mean, unbelievable.
Trevor with 2 rushing touchdowns last night. He and Patrick Mahomes were each the leading rushers for their respective teams. So as far as fantasy takeaways go, I actually felt like there weren't a ton of notable fantasy takeaways. Probably the thing that I thought about the most after the game and during the game was, and I'm not sure that we're going to get more of this, but it's really, really easy to see the special player that Travis Hunter is when he gets opportunities. I felt like pretty much every catch he had last night was really cool. There was one way down the field, probably his best highlight so far this season, on like a 40-plus yard catch. He had a couple of other catches where he makes defenders miss very easily. If the Jaguars ever committed Travis Hunter to becoming an 85% of the snaps offensive player and the focal point of their passing game, it's very, very clear how much upside he would have. I don't know if we're going to get that, but last night at least gave me a glimmer of optimism that if they do commit to him sooner rather than later, you would have a weekly starter in fantasy.
There was one moment as a result of him playing both ways. One thing I said is it's injury exposure, right? Because the more you're on the field, every time you step on the field, it's called an exposure. So when you're playing both ways, clearly that's double the amount. And he came off a little bit limping last night, kind of got off the field, and I thought, oh no, is this going to make them rethink what they're doing with Travis Hunter? I mean, I do wonder if he was fine, came back in the game, but I do wonder if that's the kind of thing that reminds them this is the chance you take when you have a player playing both ways, because they're just going to be more set up for injury, and fatigue starts to kick in. It's different playing it at the NFL level.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
They've done a good job managing him so far, but last night, again, I don't think there were a ton of takeaways. Like Xavier Worthy ended up playing last night. He, too, left the game, seemed to sort of retwist that ankle. He was back out within, 2 snaps, I think it was. Worthy led the team in targets again last night. He didn't have a monster night, but I think he ended up with 6 catches plus a rushing attempt on 8 targets. So until Rashee Rice returns, he will still most likely be the primary part of their passing attack.
I think I got 2 questions sort of takeaways from this game. Okay. And one of the first ones is because I invested more than I wish that I had in Isaiah Pacheco as a low-end RB2. Like, is Kareem Hunt actually like the lead running back of this squad? Or is it just like a committee?
He's the closer.
Exactly. I wanted to talk about Isaiah Pacheco because we've talked about him post-injury, and is he the same? Did you watch every time he ran hard.
He does run
looked
hard.
like Isaiah Pacheco. He looked a lot like the Isaiah Pacheco before the injury last night. I think those questions have been answered. I don't think this is on that anymore. I think the notion that he's not the same guy and that's the problem, I don't think that's it. I think it's just the effectiveness of their run game, and Kareem Hunt gets the opportunities in the red zone. Clearly, that's what he's there for. Yeah. But Pacheco earned every yard that he got, and then some. There were a lot of guys who couldn't have made some of the extra yardage that he got last night. So I think he's back as far as what his style is. It's just their run game efficiency is still not there.
Yeah, it's not there, and he's going to get limited goal line opportunities. So there's a very clear ceiling on the player that Isaiah Pacheco is. Kareem Hunt had his longest rushing attempt last night, 33 yards in over 4 years. So a quirky game.
That's incredible.
In so many ways last night. Mahomes was excellent, not just in real life, but in fantasy as well. He has been really, really solid so far this season. I don't have Brenton Strange. He got hurt in the middle of early in this game, I should say. He ended up not returning to the lineup. So not a whole lot in terms of fantasy movements. Travis Kelce found the end zone. He was really good last night. That's a red zone winning question, by the way, for those that pay attention to Sunday mornings on FF Now. But largely, I felt like this game was more entertaining in real life than it was for fantasy football. So I have nothing dramatic to add beyond that.
I did feel like Brian Thomas, I think that there's an improvement of the chemistry between him and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence actually spoke to that a little bit in the postgame. My takeaway was, if we thought once was a fluke, like we were starting to see Brian Thomas, I think twice tells us it's a trend. Now, the fantasy production isn't totally there. 10.6 fantasy points in week 4, 12 fantasy points last night, but definitely Brian Thomas looked the part last night, made a couple amazing catches. And I think that the hard part for me now is trying to figure out the chemistry between them does look better, but Trevor Lawrence has more options. And so is it going to be that he's going to spread the ball around? I mean, who had Parker Washington catching the touchdown on their bingo card,
Yeah. Didn't need it. No one did. No. Nobody needed Parker Washington in the end zone.
Been Brian Thomas, but I felt like Brian Thomas looked really good last night. I felt like their connection was good. So to the eyeball, I feel like maybe this means that Brian Thomas and Trevor Lawrence, we're going to see a little bit more from them as a fantasy duo. The fact that Trevor Lawrence talked about it specifically gives me hope. Yeah. Still not where we want it to be.
I think I'm with you on that. I don't think when I saw this game and I'm thinking about rankings for week 6, did Trevor Lawrence Trevor Lawrence I'm not ranking as a starter, to be honest, but Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, did they do anything enough to move them up? I don't think so. Xavier Worthy is Xavier Worthy. Nothing that he did, either good or bad, unless he got hurt, was really going to move the needle a ton.
He's a strong wide receiver too.
Exactly. And I think Travis Kelce, this was a classic Travis Kelce week. I don't think this is going to happen every week. This week, it just happened to work out this way.
Yeah, but Kelce, for even some of the inconsistencies, I'm going to pull it up right now, but he's got to be, tight end 6 or 7 at worst right now?
12, I think.
Is he really?
I think so.
Okay. Well, after last night, I'd be surprised if he didn't move up a couple spots there. But we'll take a look. Bottom line is that he's on that radar of startable tight ends, even if the upside is semi-tapped.
How about last thing, and then I'll move on. This is the 3rd game this season in which Patrick Mahomes has at least 45% of his fantasy points come because of his legs. He has 3 games with at least 57 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown this season.
They can't really run the ball. So
they literally cannot. He has been unbelievable.
Salvaging. He's salvaging possessions. He's keeping a series alive. This is where he gets his yards. I don't think it's ideal. I don't think he wants to do it. But just while we're celebrating the wizard that Patrick Mahomes is, just watch people try and take him down. There's something about the way he trains. It's unbelievable. People grab him around the ankles. He gets out of it. He does not go down easily, and that's why he can get all those extra yards.
Yep. For what it's worth, Field, you are right. Confirmed. Travis Kelce, who was tight end 12 heading into the week,
now
is tight end 6 in total fantasy points.
And by the way, Daniel, he is 8 points away from being tight end 2 for the season.
Yes.
So I get it. This was one of our spirited conversations coming into the year is that he was just kind of fine. It's like tight end 4 or 5, just kind of fine.
8 points away from tight end 2 and 8 points away from tight end 12.
Exactly.
That's the gap in what tight end looks like this
year. Part of that morass of tight ends that aren't named Jake Ferguson so far.
Oh, that's so funny.
All right.
Let's dive into our Fantasy Focus Show League really quickly before we jump into some waivers, because we had a close matchup between you and Eric Moody.
I mean, actually, not
Look
really.
How many points you guys scored.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh.
My team is hurting. We are cruising for a bruising so far this season. But I put up 146.92. Got a big night from Jalen Waddle. Got a big night from Rashad White. Got a huge night from Justin Fields. Garbage time still counts. Really had no gigantic duds on my roster. And Eric Moody, who came into this matchup with the same record that I did, also 2-6, dropped 169.28 points. He got a mammoth, and I mean mammoth day from Rico Dowdle. Yeah. Javonte Williams was excellent. Bo Nix was sharp. Nearly 18 fantasy points. Justin Jefferson had over 19 fantasy points. Just strong across the board for our friend Eric Moody. My tip of the cap to you, Moody. And this is why victory points matter, because I think I was the second or third highest scoring team in the league.
You were the second highest.
So this is one where victory points do matter, because I still get 1-1. I still go 1-1, I should say. The problem is I feel like victory points feel a little bit better when you're in a 12-team league and you finish 6th that week, and it's like, I lost, but at least I get that 1-1. No, like I had the second best week of anybody in the league, and I still lose one of those 2 games. So I am downtrodden, but not defeated. I'm a second half team, my friends.
I've moved up from the bottom of the barrel.
You have. You have.
I've had 2 strong weeks that I've actually gotten victory points. I was like so badly losing, I wasn't getting victory points or win for my team. I'm moving up.
And honestly, that's all you can do. We got producer Dave and our producer Tyler, both at the top 1 and 2, who are 8 and 2. Sorry, Zach is number 2. So they are both 8 and 2. Trophy Smack, who always seems to have a good team in our league, by the way.
Every year.
7 and 3. They crushed me this week. And then Mike and I, 5 and 5, and then the rest of the league just a little bit lower than that. You guys are not out of it, though.
No, Daniel, again, I'm a second half team.
That's right.
I believe that passionately. Remember, this last year, I started slow last year. I bounced back, nearly made the playoffs. So I'm in it to win it. Just hasn't been a lot of wins so far. I'm the Ravens.
That's all right. We're getting there. It's early in the season.
I'm the Ravens. I'm going to get healthy,
throw in the towel.
Quarterback right. We're back.
However, you are going to play fantasy basketball just in case fantasy football doesn't work out for you.
You know something, season. Daniel? That is correct, but I would sort of not appreciate you announcing that.
Okay, got it. All right, no big deal.
We're taping the show, right? It's not live? Oh, this is live. Okay.
This is live.
Oops. All right, no more swearing for the rest of the show.
Let's dive into a couple of waivers things here. And the first one I want to open up to a conversation.
Okay. Yeah, but guys, big waiver week this week.
Yeah.
Big.
A lot of things going on here.
Yeah.
So, Stephania, I want to start with you because we found out yesterday Omarion Hampton, who we had been so excited about, finally got the backfield all to himself. Now, unfortunately, going to go on IR. What can you tell us about this injury for Omarion?
Well, this is Chargers, so that means we don't get much in terms of information. But Jim Harbaugh basically opened his conference with reporters saying that Omarion Hampton was going on injured reserve. All we knew was that he had injured his ankle and he was in a walking boot after the game. And we talked about yesterday how a walking boot can be a proactive measure to sort of limit the motion at the ankle and the foot while things are being evaluated, or it can be something serious. And it appears to be of the more serious variety. No details, but I would also remind you that when a player automatically goes on IR like that, it tells you they know there's no chance he's coming back beforehand. So it also means there's no guarantee that he's coming back immediately at the end of the 4 required missed games. So with that in mind, who's up next for the Chargers, guys?
Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal are the 2 names that come to mind right now. Who knows? They may be in a situation to go out and add a running back, but Field...
They have to probably add at least the practice.
At least someone, yes.
At least, yep.
Neither of these guys have really done anything in their careers for us from a fantasy perspective. I think the best game that either one of them had was maybe 13 fantasy points. So when you're looking at this, how are you trying to suss out what this backfield's going to be?
So a little bit of how we discussed the Cardinals backfield last week. Now, the results were a little bit different than what we thought they might be for Arizona, as Michael Carter was actually really involved in the passing game, too. 5 catches to 0 for Emari DeMarcado. That being said, that was kind of the Spanish DeMarcado.
Yeah, a little bit. That's all right. No big deal.
We're all over the place here this morning. I think Hassan Haskins stands to get much of the first and second down work.
Yep.
He'll be the power back. You guys may recall last year there was a game in which Hassan Haskins got goal line work. Remember, there was J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards last year with the Chargers. By the way, Gus Edwards wouldn't surprise me if he is back on the Chargers radar as soon as this week. I think Hassan Haskins, assuming no major move this week, will be the guy that has the best chance to lead the team in carries. I think Kamani Vidal will be a change of pace back. I think he'll also get some work in the passing game. And I want to remind everybody who they play this upcoming week. The Miami Dolphins, who this past Sunday played against a backup running back, even though a very, very accomplished backup running back, Enrico Dowdle, who had over 1,000 rushing yards last year, and then nearly 1,000 rushing yards this last weekend as well. So I think Kamani Vidal, and I think in this order, Hassan Haskins, yes, must add him because I think there's a real shot he goes for 18 carries on Sunday.
Harbaugh likes him.
He does.
Gets featured
Michigan man,
a lot. Yeah, exactly. There's Michigan connection. He at training camp, that's been the buzz all along. Remember when I thought Kamani Vidal was going to be a thing? And everybody was like, Harbaugh really likes Hassan Haskins.
He does.
And I think that I agree with you that that's going to be the likeliest person to get the most work.
I do believe, again, there's only 2 bye weeks this week, but because of some of the injury uncertainty and because it's running back, I believe that Hassan Haskins is on the border of being a top 25 running back play this week.
Really?
He's at like running back 29 for me.
Okay.
So not a surefire thing, but definitely, even a 10-team league, like Kamani Vidal, Hassan Haskins for sure should be added this week.
Yeah.
Both players, I think, should be added. Like, you just don't know, and we have at least 4 games of no Omarion Hampton. Maybe longer, as Stephania said. So if these 2 guys continue to be the central point of the rushing attack going forward, I think both of them should be added in all 10 team leagues.
I guess my concern, and I agree with you on more on Hassan Haskins than I do on Kamani Vidal, or that I would take a shot on either one.
Yep.
My concern is what you had said earlier, where it's, should I actually be targeting Gus Edwards? Because by the time that Gus gets in here, is he the guy that's going to just, like, that veteran presence? Jim Harbaugh knows him. He's been a part of this offense before.
I'm speculating, so I would hate to tell you, like, hey, bypass one of these 2 guys for Gus Edwards if Gus Edwards doesn't actually appear under the Chargers' radar.
Of course.
To me, it's Hassan Haskins. It's Kamani Vidal. And if you are in a very deep league and you want to get frisky,
then
and you
Gus
have
Edwards.
a roster spot to play with, go for it. But short of that, I would not be adding Gus Edwards tonight.
In case you didn't know about these guys, Hassan Haskins is 6'2", 230 pounds. He is a big running back, so could definitely carry that early down work as well. Has 4 career games with more than 5 fantasy points. Never more than 11.9. But he's never been in a situation where he's been the lead back really like this. Like, it's always been like splitting time or he's a change of pace guy for something like that. So we'll see how this backfield works out. Fields, you mentioned it as we dive into waivers here. Teams that are on bye this week, the Houston Texans and Minnesota Vikings. So at quarterback, maybe you need to replace CJ Stroud. Probably need to replace Jordan Mason, Nick Chubb, or Woody Marks if you've been utilizing any of them. It's really the wide receivers, guys. It's Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Nico Collins. Those are the guys that we are really replacing here. And then TJ Hawkinson if you need someone at tight end. My week 6, I know. Like, ideally, you probably already replaced TJ Hawkinson, unfortunately. My week 6 priority pickups, outside of, I wanted to have that Omarion Hampton conversation first because it's such a big bit of news. I got Michael Carter at the running back spot. He is my top running back to add this week.
What's his roster percentage?
Rostered in 41.8% of leagues.
That's a joke. Come on, people.
I agree.
Get with the program here, will you?
When you look at his role in this post-Trey Benson backfield, he outsnapped Amari DeMarcado 36-17. And when you look at DeMarcado, what he did, 14 of the 17 snaps that he played were on third down. He basically continued. I know. And he was still the third down back. He only touched the ball 2 times after that fumble that he had in the fourth quarter. Michael Carter, by the way, played the early down role. Also a really good pass catcher. Like, even if he's not out there on third down, I feel like Michael Carter has shown to us why he should be the guy in this backfield. He's just going to get more volume, even though DeMarcado had that long run and it was really tantalizing. I know he dropped the football, unfortunately. But I think Michael Carter is the running back to add in this backfield. They take on the Colts this week.
Yeah.
It's not a great matchup.
It is not a great matchup. Yeah.
8th fewest fantasy points to running back, so I don't love it. But given the fact that, again, it's going to be 3 more weeks with these guys being the lead backs, I think Michael Carter needs to be rostered. Stephania, I did want to ask you about Bucky Irving as well, because that's another injured running back that I think we have to plan for here in week 6, right?
Right. We don't know the timeline on him. Missed last week because of a foot sprain and a shoulder subluxation, dealing with a couple of injuries, and made it sound like he's going to miss at least another week. So I would be assuming that he'll be out. I looked ahead. Their bye isn't until week 9. So sometimes you look at, is the bye week provide a cushion where you could say, okay, they're probably going to lean that way.
Yep.
So we still got a couple more weeks for him. But right now, I would say plan on no Bucky Irving, and lucky surprise if you get him back.
Rashad White.
Per Shefty on Sunday morning, he is dealing with a shoulder subluxation that is expected to sideline him at least 2 weeks. He will not play today, meaning the Seahawks game, and he's not expected against the 49ers either.
Rashad White is rostered in like 75% of leagues, which
Still
is why
worth
he
a look.
doesn't make the list. However, just in case, maybe he's out there, go see if Rashad White is available. At the tight end spot, I don't know how we can't think that Darren Waller is a priority add with how bad the tight end position is this year. 17.5 fantasy points in back-to-back games over the last 2 weeks. He is behind Jalen Waddle, second in targets on the Minnesota. I almost said it again. Miami Dolphins, second in receptions, second in receiving yards. He found the end zone 3 times. The negative here on Darren Waller, he only has 9 targets in 2 weeks. But the whole point is this tight end position is ridiculous right now.
Right, yeah.
And we've already talked about this, but let me ask you. I'm just going to run through the top 10 again.
Okay.
Okay? Really quickly.
Okay.
Jake Ferguson is tight end 1. Was he drafted inside the top 10?
No, he was not.
The answer is not. Was Dalton Kincaid is tight end 2? Was he a top 10? Okay.
No.
Tyler Warren, he's tight end 3.
Right on the border?
He was 11.
Okay.
Trey McBride, tight end 4. He was a top 10 tight end. Hunter Henry, tight end 5.
No.
He was not.
No.
Travis Kelce, tight end 6. He was just at the back end.
Yep.
Sam Laporta, tight end 7. He was also in there. Jake Tonjes, tight end 8.
Come on now.
He was not there.
That's
Dallas
not
Goedert,
fair.
tight end 9. And then Juwan Johnson is tight end 10. So we have 3 guys inside the top 10 at the tight end position that were drafted as top 10 tight ends.
Right.
7 of these dudes weren't even drafted as starters.
Well,
It's ridiculous.
This gets you
Fair.
very emotional.
It does, because tight end was supposed to be one of those things where we're getting like positional advantage if you draft one of the first like 5 to 6 guys, and then like none of them have really worked out for us.
The first 3 guys were considered positional advantages, right?
George Kittle got hurt, and that doesn't count.
Positional advantages.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, and Kittle was great in week 1 before he got hurt.
Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, they have been good, of course, but I drafted them to be better than good.
Oh,
so
totally.
I've just
I
been
think Bowers
frustrated.
is the disappointing one. Again, he's been hurt, obviously.
Yes.
That being said, like, you almost wish, I think there's a part of me that wishes, like, hey, you miss week 2 when you are clearly hurt and get geared back up, and maybe by week 4 or 5, you are full strength, as opposed to where we're at now, which is he already missed week 5.
Right.
He's going to potentially miss week 6, and he might not be right. Like, I think I would have rather him getting right earlier, so that he can be right for the rest of the season than dragging it out. But that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's there you have it. Like, that's basically the situation. Brock Bowers is now week to week, according to Pete Carroll, who was all sunshine and roses last week. And I just want to go back to when Brock Bowers was first hurt. So they acted like he just, took a fall. It was not a big deal, had a bruise, wanted to go back into the game. Do you remember this? He was fighting the medical staff to get back in the game. They held him out. But everybody, Bowers even said early in the following week, if the game's today, I could play. He felt good. And then instability is a funny thing. So he has a PCL sprain. You feel a little bit unsteady. All of a sudden you find you can't, it may not hurt you walking around. So you feel like you're pretty good. You feel like you want to play. But then you try and do football moves. You try and dig. You try and plant. And your knee doesn't feel like it's solid underneath you. That's a problem. And that's where he's at right now. And the timetable going forward for that, it's hard to know, because as he's been playing through it, probably hasn't been healing, ideally, the way that it should. So that could add time onto the back end now. And I think that's why the Raiders are saying, look, we're just going to call it week to week, but Pete Carroll did say we're going to approach it like we did last week. We're going to take it all the way up to the end of the week and then make a decision. So I don't think you're going to get clear answers on this. This might be the weekly situation that you don't get a clear answer. Now, Michael Mayer should be back. He was out because he had a concussion. The expectation is he will play for the Raiders this week.
Feels like if you've got Brock Bowers on your roster, then you need to, at least for this week, continue to have a secondary tight end on your roster just to be safe.
Absolutely.
Even though you don't want to probably use that spot on a second tight end.
I'm not sure I play him if he plays.
Brock Bowers.
Yeah, because what have you seen so far when he's played and he hasn't been right? And sometimes the only way they find out is they test it and they go, now it depends what your options are.
Right.
You got to see what your options are. But if you think he's back. I'm going to plug him in. I'm going to get the same result that I got in week 1. I'm not confident that that's the case.
It's hard to, if he does play, it's hard to bench him unless you really hit the lottery with Jake Ferguson or something like that, or Tyler Warren, because even down Brock Bowers, 5 for 38, 4 for 38, and 5 for 46. I know that doesn't sound great when you're like 8.5 fantasy points, but then you're like, oh wait, it's Brock Bowers or it's
Theo Johnson.
He was great last week.
I know.
Theo Johnson's not the one
it's Brock Bowers, or it's like, hey, again, Brenton Strange, who last night was quiet prior to his injury, or Mark Andrews, right? Like there's just been such minimal production there, which all brings us back to the point of why you were intrigued by Darren Waller.
Yes. I don't love the idea of saying go out and a priority add at tight end as a guy who has 9 targets over the last 2 weeks, but I do think that he's going to continue to ramp up now that there's like a spot for him in this Dolphins receiving core.
Okay,
they take on the Chargers this week, by the way. 5th fewest fantasy points at tight end, so not a great matchup, unfortunately. But
I always remind people, you got to take the tight end against stats with a grain of salt. There's like 3 good tight ends. Who have the Chargers played? Is it because they're really good at neutralizing tight ends, or is it because they don't play teams with good tight ends?
I think they played Brock Bowers and Travis Kelce so far this year because they were all
they had Zach
games,
Ertz
right?
with 0 fantasy points last week, right? So the Chargers have played. Let's take a look right now. They have played the Raiders when Brock was hurt.
Yes.
They played the Chiefs in week 1 where Travis Kelce had,
he was fine, I think.
Travis Kelce had 2 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown, right? So, yeah.
Of course he found the end zone. Of course that guy found the end zone.
All right.
I got one more for you that's a priority add. Now that we're in bye weeks, I think that we need to have at least one priority streaming quarterback, like as much as possible. There are some weeks where it's just not going to work out. This week, though, there's a guy that absolutely stands out to me.
Give it to me.
Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
Rostered in 52% of leagues, so he's just over that 50% threshold. However, back-to-back games with 25 fantasy points.
Okay.
And he plays the Baltimore Ravens, who have given up 27 fantasy points to 3 of the 5 quarterbacks they have placed this year. They have given up the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks, not surprising. And because of this Lamar Jackson injury that I'm unsure of, Stephania, I think if there was one guy that I had as a streaming priority, Matthew Stafford, with what he's done the last couple of weeks, taking on this Ravens defense has just given away fantasy points like it's candy to other quarterbacks. So what can you tell us about Lamar Jackson and the expectations for week 6?
I don't know that we know because, again, you got another Harbaugh.
One Harbaugh to the other Harbaugh.
I'm not going to say much, but look, if Lamar Jackson can play, he wants to play, but most of these low-grade hamstring injuries are 1 to 3 weeks. That's what you're looking at. With the Ravens having a bye in week 7, it does make you think that if they're looking at the big picture and they do not want their quarterback who is a runner, it's not like you want to put him out there and have him feel constrained in any way. You want to let him cut loose. And if he goes out and sets himself back, now you've maybe cost yourself another 4 or 5 weeks. So unless there's a market improvement with Lamar Jackson, I could very easily see them keeping him out another week.
You said the bye is week 7?
Yep.
Yes.
What do you do if you're the Ravens? I mean, because if you lose many more games, you don't have a shot at the season.
Very, very simple answer. If he's healthy enough to play, he'll play. If he's not, he won't.
Because like if he doesn't play and you put Cooper Rush back out there and you're 1-6 going into the bye week.
1-5, but yeah.
Sorry, you're right. 1-5 going into the bye week.
He wants to play, but he wanted to play last week.
Well, just in case you have Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford is my priority streaming quarterback this week, given the matchup and how he's played the last couple weeks.
Agreed on that.
Couple quick deeper leagues or streaming ads if you need him this week. Kendrick Bourne was fantastic this last week. 10 catches for 142 yards, 24.2 fantasy points. Both Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall were hurt. There's still no George Kittle, but he may have earned himself more playing time if there's going to continue to be an open spot somewhere in this pass-catching core. With all the injuries that the 49ers have had, he could be a bench stash for you in deeper leagues if you need it. Tajay Spears, I think, is worth adding. Tajay Spears missed the first 4 weeks of the season. I just want to make sure everyone remembers that. Came back last week, only played 17 snaps. They're bringing him along in this offense, but he can definitely put up points in a hurry as a pass catcher. His 5 best fantasy games in his career, all over 16.5 fantasy points. None of them did he hit 35 rushing yards. It's what he does as a pass catcher. So that's one of the things that you can look at. I think you should be on benches with the lack of depth at the running back position. And then the last one is Tyler Algier. rostered in 31% of leagues. It's not exciting. He's going to keep being in this deeper league or streaming conversation because we just saw 3 backup running backs deliver top 10 fantasy performances when their main running back went down. We know for a fact that if anything happened to Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier is going to be the guy. He would be the obvious next man up. He already has 2 games where he touched the ball over 16 times. So I think he would get a ton of volume if he was the lead back. And just given the lack of depth at the running back position, not someone that we're thinking about starting, but I'm now looking at these like insurance backs with how useful they've been over the first month of the season, thinking I need to find a way just to make sure I have a couple of these guys on the back end of my roster.
Great call by you right there.
Anybody else that you guys would have? That's Daniel Dopp's waiver wire list for week 5. Anyone that I didn't mention that you feel like needs to be on there?
I just want to plant a seed for people to think about. If you are one of these fortunate people that have room on your bench and you're looking to the future, Christian Watson returned to practice yesterday. So remember, he tore his ACL in week 18, and we wondered before the season began if he would even be a consideration to play at all this year, given how late that was. We talk about these 9 to 12 month recoveries, but obviously there's variability there. He had his practice window opened on Monday, and he told reporters how great he felt. And he felt like he was actually making some cuts, doing some football stuff that he said he's been doing on his own, but it felt great to get back out there with the team. That, when you're coming off the PUP list, it's 21 days. Once that practice window opens, the team has to then add you to the active roster, or you go back out for the rest of the year. So if you want to make room for a wide receiver that you think could contribute, I don't know how he'll look when he gets back. You know how I feel about this. These guys really don't take that next step till the second year, but he might be able to provide something for you later in the season if you want to pay attention to that. Just kind of keep an eye on the practice notes. The only other thing I'll add besides that is I should have mentioned it earlier, but Tyrone Tracy has been back in practice. He practiced Friday on a limited basis, practiced again, was listed as limited. Monday, these short weeks they do a lot of projection, but he was listed as limited participant. Makes me wonder if that's why they had him tested a little bit last Friday. They play Thursday night.
Yes.
If he's back, how does that impact what we're getting from Cam Scatterby? That
becomes
becomes the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think out of the gates, you still expect a lot of Cam Scatterby this week because Tracy is obviously not going to be 100%. Yeah. At some point, it wouldn't surprise me if it goes from 75-25 to more like 65-35 or 60-40 in the favor of.
I could see that.
Yep.
All right. Priority ads, just one more time to make sure that you know, because we talked about one of them sort of off the top. One of them is going to be Hassan Haskins. The next one's going to be Michael Carter, then Darren Waller at the tight end spot, Matthew Stafford at the quarterback position, and a couple of deeper league streaming options. Field, let me ask you this question. I want to give a streaming, and Stephania, this is for you too. I want to give a streaming defensive option every week if I can help it. Would you guys go back to the Rams taking on the Ravens this week in spite of how bad it was last week? Me too.
There's a dramatic difference between a Kyle
I agree with
Shanahan
you. I just want to say it.
No, I'm not. I'm saying I think there's a dramatic difference between Kyle Shanahan working with some spare parts versus the Ravens working with some spare parts, and the gap between Lamar Jackson and Cooper Rush is wide.
Monumental.
Yes. The gap between Brock Purdy and Mac Jones exists, but Mac is a much more dependable, I should say, number 2 quarterback. I'm not even sure that we see Cooper Rush again this weekend. It might be Tyler Huntley.
Oh,
dude.
And by the way, the Rams, not happy.
Not after that week.
They're coming in angry.
They would.
And their defense has looked really good this season. Surprisingly so.
Absolutely. All right. Let's do a little field in the blanks, my friends.
All right.
Field, how does this segment work? You have a couple of things that you're bringing to the table here.
Sure, yep.
And you're going to give us a couple of questions. Do you have answers to your own questions, or are these questions for us?
Yes, I have answers to my own questions.
Okay, I have answers
pose
as well.
them to me. If you guys want to also answer, you can.
Field, Baker Mayfield is a top blank quarterback for the rest of the season. Field in the blank.
My answer is Baker Mayfield is a top 5 or 6 at worst quarterback for the rest of the season.
Okay.
Let's dive into the players that are obviously ahead, or I shouldn't say obviously, because Baker has been exceptional this season.
Yep.
Here are the players that I would still prefer for the rest of the year over Baker Mayfield. Josh Allen.
Yes.
Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
And I say Lamar Jackson 4th because obviously, if Lamar, while we don't think it's going to be like 3 more weeks, if it is 3 more weeks, then that would be notable. And we don't know that as of yet. But Lamar Jackson at full strength, to me, is still the best quarterback in all of fantasy football. Those four are ahead of Baker Mayfield. For me, clearly, even with the uncertainty surrounding Lamar's health. The other players that I considered in the race for that fifth spot were as follows. Patrick Mahomes, who was once again great last night.
Yep.
Justin Fields, who was once again awesome this past week.
Yep.
And then the ascending Drake May, who this past week played awesome football, except for not accounting for any touchdowns. But he was really good against the Buffalo Bills. So I've got Baker right there as 5, 6 at worst.
I have him at 6, 7 at worst. So we are very close to each other.
Dog there. Okay.
I was going to say top 7. That was just like.
Are there any names that I have ahead of Baker that you disagree with vehemently?
Nope. And I had the same conversation around Lamar, where it's like, do I put Lamar in here knowing what the team looks like in the injury?
Is there anybody else I didn't mention that you're saying, hey, you don't have that much confidence in Indiana Jones or somebody like that? Brock Purdy, if he's healthy.
I'm going to get myself in trouble here, I think.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Go ahead.
I still don't know how I feel about Patrick Mahomes through the first 5 weeks of the season, because what he's doing with his legs is just so different than what he has historically done throughout his career. Like, Patrick Mahomes has 3 of his 4 highest scoring games with his legs to start this 2025 season in his entire career. Like, he is doing things that he is not normally doing, and he's finding the end zone while doing it. So, like, how much is that going to sustain? Without him being able to use his legs, he's a very mediocre quarterback right now.
Still 6th in passing yards.
He is
this season. He's got 8 passing touchdowns, which ties him for 9th. So it's not like he's been a non-factor.
But he has 1 passing touchdown in 4 of his 5 games.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm not
Doesn't
saying
look pretty.
Nope. Well, he
but
does
the
look
offensive
pretty.
line, the offense, the way that the running game works right now, I just think there's a chance that Patrick Mahomes continues to rush for somewhere between 20 and 25 yards a game. That's good enough to keep him right there in that top 5 or 6 quarterback conversation. Other names that were mentioned from our peanut gallery, a.k.a. our director, Brandy, Jordan Love. Name to consider right there? Yes or no?
With Christian Watson returning, I think that I'm more in on the idea of Jordan Love and being out on a pass catcher, but he's just going to spread the ball around to the guys that he has.
Yeah, Jordan Love, exactly 1,000 passing yards through 4 games, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, not a ton of rushing upside. Dak Prescott could have been mentioned. He's playing great, but I'm saying all these guys as mentions. I don't think they're in the category. I feel pretty good about those first 8 quarterbacks that I gave you. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Fields, and Drake May.
I like it. I like that call.
The sell high candidate you should be looking to trade away is blank.
Ooh. Well, let me ask you this question, because I know we got a tag board for this. Do we do the tag board first or do it after Field does the reveal, producer Tyler? Let's do it after.
Okay.
All right.
So your player candidate that you should be looking to trade away is Jamar Chase.
Ooh.
Jamar Chase, who had just an incredible game, of course, on Sunday, 6 for 110 with 2 touchdowns. He was wide receiver 2 on the week.
He was
excellent, was Jamar Chase. There was also a point in that game where he had 3 tackles and he had 3 catches. It was garbage time in its highest form. He had 2 duds just prior to that.
Yep.
We talked about how the schedule gets better for Cincinnati after those 2 tough matchups, even in what was supposedly a less difficult matchup. For a while in that game against your Lions, Daniel, you saw it. It was clamps. I don't know about clamps, but it was mostly like Jake Browning's not that good. Jake Browning might not start for the Bengals on Sunday. That's been the indication from Zach Taylor. But, like, who is it that they're bringing aboard onto the roster that's going to be better unless they make a trade for one of the notable veteran quarterbacks? The answer is nobody, right? Like, they actually cut Mike White from their practice squad. But I was sitting there looking at the options, and I was like, I know Jake Browning's not good, but is Mike White any better? The bottom line with Jamar Chase is he's an amazing player. He's going to have probably 4 or 5 more huge games the rest of the season. But you might be able to get a steadier option, and you can trade Jamar Chase after he's coming off of a wide receiver 2 overall week.
That's fair.
And get a guy who might be a weekly top 10 consideration.
That's fair. All that is, I mean, and this is the week that you're going to do it, right? Because like you got to come off of that boom.
You can't do
week.
it after the 5 for 54 game from Jamar Chase.
Exactly.
I'm actually surprised you went there. That would have been mine. But I feel like we've been saying, Jamar Chase is still Jamar Chase.
He's not going to be a total dud. It's just
No.
that relative to other wide receivers who may not have quite as much weekly ceiling or upside as Jamar Chase, they have a much better floor, which sometimes can really matter throughout the course of an 18-week exercise. Who was your pick?
My sell high would be Quentin Johnston, I believe.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think that he's just, with the way that the running backs took
But how
a
are you
hit.
going to sell high after this week?
And this is the thing. This like I don't love it because this week it wasn't quite as great. Like I would have sold last week as if I would have done. But I just I believe that there's potential touchdown regression. That O-line took a hit with the way the running backs look, and also, man, this is just like that emotional thing. Do I really think that Quentin Johnston is just the best wide receiver in this wide receiving core? He might be. And I may get to the end of the season and I just look like a dummy. Like maybe Ladd McConkey really is wide receiver 3 here, but there's a part of me that feels like Quentin Johnston is playing at his ceiling right now.
It's possible.
And if I can trade him what I think is at his ceiling, I don't think he gets better than what he's been doing, then I would at least consider it. So, but I would only want to do that. I wouldn't want to do a wide receiver for wide receiver trade. I'd want to probably trade him for a running back. So.
All righty.
All right. Next one, Field.
I would start blank number of running backs over Saquon Barkley in week 6. Stephania, do you want to fill in the audience on what's going on with Saquon before I give my answer?
What is going on with Saquon?
He was a DNP yesterday because of a knee injury. So it's an estimated practice report. There's been subsequent reporting suggesting he will be fine for Thursday. That being said, it's a knee. It's on the radar at the very least. I would start. Sorry for that one, Stephania. I would start.
Right. I spend too much time watching Trevor Lawrence,
It's the hair.
Stumble bump.
The hair.
Right into the end zone.
I would start 9 running backs over Saquon Barkley in week 6. Daniel, do you agree with that assessment on the nose?
I would start 9 running backs over Saquon Barkley in week 6.
I had brought my full list of running backs that I would start over Saquon Barkley this week.
As have I.
Tell me which names don't cross over with yours.
All right.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
Bijan Robinson.
Yep.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
Jameer Gibbs.
Yep.
Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
Devon Achane.
Yep.
Kyron Williams.
Yep.
Ashton Genty.
Yep.
Javonte Williams.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Look at that.
Nailed it.
Love that.
Any names that you heard and you're like, I don't know.
No, because Javonte Williams, to me, is the one that I think would surprise people the most.
Yeah, in that list.
Yes, because he's just quietly been
Amazing. Yeah.
I can see people thinking that, really, you're going to have Ashton Genty with how he struggled to start the season, but he's got a great matchup this week, taking on the Titans.
Against the Titans, where the game
and the volume is
in his
starting
favor.
to be there.
Yeah.
And as we talked about yesterday, I mean, it's a 1-game sample size, but 7 targets was very notable to me for Ashton Genty. If he can push 4 or 5 targets a week, then we'll be in business.
Yeah, 3 of these guys are going up against the 3 worst rush defenses in the NFL. Josh Jacobs taking on the Bengals, allowed the most fantasy points. Kyron Williams taking on the Ravens, and then Ashton Genty taking on the Titans. So we got some good matchups for these top-end running backs.
It's interesting. We talk about rankings, obviously, but as far as tiers go, this almost feels like my tier 1 ranks for this week.
Right now, yeah. No, I think that
I've
checks
almost
out.
thought about it. Like, there might be an alternate way to present information during the week where rather than calling guy like RB7 versus RB12 or something, is like all of the players in this category are must starts for me.
Yes.
Next category of guys is all of these guys are solid starts for me. Next category is like these are flimsy running back starts. The remaining players, I would not start at running back, but these guys are all must starts this week.
I'm
Saquon
totally
not
with you.
that far behind, by the way. It is a good matchup against the G-Men.
What happened this last week, though? Not a lot of volume again.
No, the offense is a mess right now. The Broncos played great defense against them. Great.
All right. Well, speaking of that offense, Field, is there blank is my favorite buy low candidate entering week 6. Who's
We
your
talked
favorite
about him
buy low?
already, and I surveyed a lot of different options. It's Brock Bowers because and there's an if here. If Brock Bowers were to, let's say, miss week 6, but that was what he needed to get back to where he was previously, and you could at some point, whether it was week 8, 9, 10, I don't care if it's week 10, if you had a difference-making tight end for the rest of the season that you could get at a moderate cost, which I think people that have Brock Bowers right now, I'll put my hand up here. The teams that I have Brock Bowers on are, without question, that's the common thread between my weakest teams this season.
Is Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers, yep. Because, I mean, it's he's been on the short list, and I hear you. It's a health thing. I'm just saying that, like, he's been ineffective when he's been out there.
Yes.
And as we talked about the beginning of the season, if you're going to draft Brock Bowers top 20 overall, he doesn't have to be just healthy. He needs to be healthy and much, much better than every other tight end not named Trey McBride. That hasn't been the case. So if you can get him at low cost, then yes, Brock Bowers could come back and be tight end 1 the rest of the way.
Yep. I'm going to save my thought. I have a thought on the tight end position. I'm going to save it. We'll do it in a different show.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you guys have a favorite buy low candidate?
Well, I was thinking of TJ Hawkinson. I know you guys don't like this because he has not looked like TJ Hawkinson used to look.
Yep.
We talked about this before the injury. I don't think it's TJ Hawkinson's physical self that's the issue. I think it's a combination of things in Minnesota. Okay. I think he's actually fine health-wise. Yeah, I think after the bye, they're going to regroup some and come back. And I think people are going to be discouraged by him, and they would rather go with somebody. I mean, I would say Brenton Strange once we got to find out what the injury situation is with him. But, some of the upstart tight ends or stream people instead of stick with him because of the disappointment. But those are probably people who invested a little bit more draft-wise. Yeah. So I think you could get him for a cheap price with somebody who's angry. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by what he does in the next part of the season.
I'm one of those angry managers, though, Stephania, because I did draft TJ Hawkinson thinking that without Jordan Addison start the season, that he was going to be great. And then it was tough, right? And I understand it started slow. But then once Jordan Addison came back, he's had 15 fantasy points in back-to-back games. I thought that was going to be the TJ Hawkinson role, and he just hasn't materialized in there as that trusted pass catcher that we know he can be at the tight end spot.
I think there's the inconsistency of the quarterback spot is also part of the issue.
Well, that's very, very definitely. I'll say quickly very on this. It very definitely is the issue.
That I do. Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah, I'm just going to say it.
You're keeping a big secret.
But we drafted Brock Bowers and Trey McBride at the top end of this tight end class, right? Okay. And it was if we do this, if you want to get one of these guys, they're difference makers. You got to get them, in the second or maybe third round at the latest. And it feels like we're doing this thing that we did with Travis Kelce a couple of years ago, where it's the gap between player 1 and player 2 is just so big that you're getting this massive positional advantage. We thought that was the case this year with Brock Bowers and Trey McBride.
It probably would have been.
But when it doesn't play out, you lose all positional advantage. And so to me, it's boy, is it worth it? I'm just thinking back to myself, is it worth it for me to try to invest in an early round tight end, knowing that if it doesn't hit, I'm now just streaming a position rather than focusing on an early round running back or wide receiver where I just always need some.
Well,
it's an imperfect science.
Do this hindsight.
I know, and that's part of it.
But go back to what you said, which is Brock Bowers, you expected this gap. If Brock Bowers doesn't get hurt, look what he did in week 1. That gap exists.
That's where the gap would be.
I mean, the gap exists. So it was, the process was correct. The results aren't what you wanted, but those results are hampered by something you couldn't have foreseen because we could do that with everybody who's out here.
Yeah, super fair.
Everybody's at risk for injury. So I think if you go back and you reevaluate the process, you have to say at the time, based on the information I had, that was a correct decision.
Yeah, because I think if you got Brock Bowers repeat of last year, you'd be like, holy crap, I have the biggest difference maker in all fantasy.
Agreed.
Yeah. And
when you look
week
at
1, you thought you did exactly that.
Correct.
For 105. So yeah, I hear you.
I'll give you.
It's safer. Yeah, it's safer to take a running back or a wide receiver.
Yeah. What are you going to do there?
Is it though?
My favorite.
I mean, who's already lost for the season?
My favorite.
Take your pick.
Buy
CD
low.
Lamb. How do you think people feel about CD Lamb and taking him as early as they did?
It's frustrating anytime you have Malik Neighbors, anytime you have anybody that is.
It feels to me other than Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's everybody has some level of risk. Amon-Ra is just 105
he stands
catches.
On his head.
He's as steady amazing as they get. Yes. Yeah. My favorite buy low candidate entering week 6 will be real quick is I am scouring my team or my league to see which of these teams has Rashee Rice and are they losing poorly? Because if they are not in a good spot, I am throwing out a buy low offer on Rashee Rice, knowing he's still got a couple weeks until he comes back, but maybe that can help me, help you kind of a thing. Otherwise, I'm going to say squeaky wheel eventually gets the grease again, and I would try to buy low on A.J. Brown.
Okay. A.J. Brown, good call there. I think if this is my advice to those who may be in the predicament that Daniel just laid out, which is if you have Rashee Rice, but you have struggled up to this point, you know that you're getting him back in 2 weeks. The entire league knows you're getting him back in 2 weeks as well. You drafted him for the patient play here. The only way that I am giving up on Rashee Rice is if somebody bowls me over. I can't take 85 cents or 75 cents on the dollar for Rashee Rice because I didn't wait 6 weeks to just parlay him into something a little bit less valuable. I would have done that 2 weeks ago.
Unless you're a team that's you haven't won, you're desperate, and you need somebody on your roster who can contribute now. And maybe that's the part that bowls you over.
That's the goal.
If I need somebody, I can't be patient anymore. I could be patient before, but now I've lost Malik Neighbors. So I can't wait for Rashee Rice. I need somebody else.
I am pulling out all the stops. When I send off over a trade offer for Rashee Rice, I'm looking at who they're playing this week. Yeah. And I'm going to say the team you're playing is 4-1 and you are 1-4 and you need someone and it's bye week. Like I'm sending an email or a text message with all the reasons why you need to do this to try to help them get along there. So we'll see how that one works out. Field, I'm keeping an eye on blank for a mid-season breakout this year.
All right, so I thought about this one for a while. I didn't want to give you just somebody random who is like trending up already and has been giving you like 10 fantasy points a week, but you're looking for the potential for 15 or so. I'm giving you a guy who hasn't done a whole lot so far this season. He actually came up in a pre-show conversation we were having yesterday, Daniel. I'm keeping my eye on Colston Loveland for a midseason breakout.
Yeah.
We are desperate for anybody at tight end that can give us some level of production.
Yep.
Colston Loveland got hurt in week 3 for the Bears, missed week 4. They were off in week 5. In week 3 against the Dallas Cowboys, Colston Loveland played a total of 6 snaps. On those 6 snaps, he had 3 targets. I think at some point, and we
extrapolate that over a full game, and we expect Colston Loveland to have 45 to 50 targets a game. Yes.
So I think there's a chance that the Bears at some point in that same game, by the way, or week 4, the following week, when Colston Loveland was unavailable against the Raiders, Cole Kmet had a couple of miscues. There was a drop near the end zone that he just had let it go right through the wickets. Drafting Colston Loveland was always going to be playing the long game for the Chicago Bears. They understood they had Cole Kmet as their starting tight end. But when I say long game, I don't mean like year 3 or 4. I think it could mean as soon as like the middle point of this season. He's a very talented player in an offense that is extremely innovative. And obviously Rome Odunze has emerged as the guy that's become the focal point of the passing game. I think there's enough room, though, for Rome Odunze and DJ Moore and a tight end to feast in this offense. Not him and Cole Kmet, but if he jumps Cole Kmet and is playing 60 to 65% of the snaps, you might be in business at a position where, once again, literally anybody that can get you 8 points a game is startable.
You're feeling good about it. Yes.
That's the threshold right now. If you can get 8 fantasy points a game, you might actually be on the radar for being a starting tight end.
I love that.
I would take 10, but like
that's
8
really
consistently.
Good, I liked him a lot in it was him and Tyler Warren. These were the 2 rookies we were paying attention to at the tight end position. Tyler Warren certainly panned out, different situations, but I feel like there's nothing wrong with the talent of Colston Loveland, and things seem to be clicking in that Bears offense with Caleb Williams' improved play and sort of how he's running it. That's a great target for him to have.
I think it's going to come along. And there's one of the things I said in the offseason when I was looking at the Bears is I wonder if we're just going to look back at that offense and say, Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, I feel like they're probably going to be down more often than not playing in the NFC North. I don't know if that's the case. Like maybe they're just going to be a pretty good football team. Like they throw the ball a ton. So given how bad tight end has been and that we need somebody, this is a great call, Field. I love the idea.
Is there anybody else that came to mind for either of you guys?
Tetero McMillan for me.
And I like that one. That's a good one.
He is in that 10-point range for you, but here's the thing for me. Tetero McMillan is 5th in targets. Yeah. Like he is getting a ton of opportunities. He has more targets than Jackson Smith and Jigba, more targets than Amon-Ra St. Brown, more targets than Justin Jefferson.
That's crazy.
Like he's getting a ton of opportunities, but he's wide receiver 31 in fantasy points per game.
Yep.
So when I look at those guys that are having a huge work share, just a ton of volume at the top of this wide receiver list, there is one guy that stands out as someone that's not putting production with the volume, and that's Tetero McMillan. The idea that you either are going to have Bryce Young in this offense get a little bit better, more chemistry as we got time with this young rookie wide receiver, or like maybe worst case scenario, they replace Bryce Young with Andy Dalton, and then I actually feel pretty good about it. I think Andy Dalton is a capable quarterback.
Andy Dalton was Deontay Johnson's best friend last year.
Absolutely.
Remember that? What a weird time that was.
So I think Tetero McMillan, again, with just like being a rookie, only 5 weeks into the season, I think he has a chance to continue to build upon all the volume that he's getting here.
There you have it.
With that theme, I would say Woody Marks. I think, we saw a glimpse of it a couple of weeks ago when he had that 27.9 fantasy point game.
Yep.
We saw what happened last week 2.4 fantasy points. I understand it's a bit of a roller coaster, and we haven't seen the Texans offense do anything consistently, but we did see a spark in the Texans offense as a whole. We know that they're alive under there.
Absolutely.
Their schedule pulled up. I know they're on a bye this week.
Yeah,
Who do they play in subsequent weeks?
So Seattle defense, you don't love that. The 49ers, Denver, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Buffalo.
I actually bring it up because I'm almost interested in who the opposing offense is, because this past week Nick Chubb played well. He had a touchdown. Part of that was like they could do whatever they wanted offensively.
Right.
Maybe Woody Marks in games where they kind of need more juice because their defense which is great, by the way. It's the best defense in the NFL, at least in terms of points per game allowed right now, is tested a bit more. You need some more juice. So I almost like the weeks in which Houston plays an opposing potent offense. The Ravens are not that without Lamar Jackson.
No, they are not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
When you're talking about Woody Marks, it made me think about the idea that we haven't mentioned Joe Mixon, for good reason. It doesn't seem like a lot of reason to mention him. I just looked at his roster percentage.
Maybe.
He's rostered in 60% of leagues still.
Why?
And he is taking up your injured reserve spot. If I just, for Daniel, and I want you guys to say what you would do, but like if I had Joe Mixon and he was taking up my IR spot, there's enough guys that I would rather have in that position that are useful for my fantasy squad. Joe Mixon should just be in the waiver wire,
There's
period.
zero movement, and it's now starting to bubble up to the things that, quite frankly, if you're listening, we were telling you in the preseason that he may not play at all this year. So
seems to be trending that way.
Do not, if you have him on your roster, I'm telling you, drop.
Drop him.
There you go.
There you go. All right.
Drop him like a bad habit.
Our buddy Eric Moody has been handling chat for us right now. Again, follow him on social media at Eric N. Moody. But we're going to try to dive into our YouTube chat. Maybe take a couple of questions from our mailbag right now. So the first one comes from Jacob. Says, should I be looking at selling on Jaden Daniels right now?
I wonder why Jacob is asking that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I would sell his spelling. Jaden is spelled with a Y for what it's worth. No offense, though.
We are equal. We are, listen, we don't judge. Jacob, I don't know. I actually thought he was fine this past weekend. Like the mobility was, I thought, fine. The rushing output was fine as well. The biggest difference between last year's unbelievable pace and this year is a little bit less rushing and a little bit less passing proficiency. He's slightly down, but still, again, I mentioned him earlier as a top 5 quarterback at worst for Jaden Daniels. Top 4 for me to be specific. So I'm good with Jaden. I'd hold tight.
I think I would too. And I kind of just want to walk through the context. If I'm going to sell on Jaden Daniels, that means I've got another quarterback that I believe in.
You must have like a Daniel
Jones
or somebody like that who's been performing well enough,
Jones,
and you're trying to get. You're not going
Williams,
QB for
Justin
QB,
Fields, great,
right?
yeah.
You're
I
going
would
QB
trade
for something else.
Yeah, I would trade one of those other quarterbacks that you just mentioned. The Daniel Jones, the Caleb Williams, the Drake May. I would trade those guys and keep Jaden Daniels, thinking that I still can get good value unless someone is going to just like totally blow me out of the water with a Jaden Daniels deal.
Fair.
I don't think that I would be moving him, not with what I think he can do. All right, another question here from our YouTube chat. This one comes from our friend. Nope. 301 D-Ski wants to know, are we starting Scattaboo against the Eagles? This will be a Thursday conversation as well.
I was going to say, more to come over the week, but yes, we are. The workload last week was not quite as great as it was the week prior. Maybe had 25 carries in week 4. Did Scattaboo put the ball on the ground this past week, but 6 catches for Scattaboo.
Love that.
17 of Jackson Dart's 26 completions went to running backs or tight ends in week 5. So Scattaboo will be inside my top 25 of backs this week.
Yeah, and even if Tyrone Tracy comes back, I don't think that he's necessarily 100%.
Not week 1.
He might even be nervous about taking contact. They might use him in limited situations where Scattaboo run right through you. Like, they're not going to put Tyrone Tracy in that situation.
Did you guys see the video? Was it Demario Davis? Who was it?
Yep, it was Demario Davis.
Yeah,
sharing some praise for Cam Scott.
Yes, it was actually a very fun video because
cool.
he tackles him on the field and he is like, "This is a man's game, little boy. This is a man's game." But then after the game is over, he's like, "Hey man, I really love the way you run the football. Like much respect to how you play this game." It was a very cool moment. I liked watching.
Scattaboo is must-see TV.
He is. He's very fun to watch. He's electric for that. All right, another question that we have here from our YouTube chat. Maybe our last one. We'll see about that. This one comes from Carson Bird. What do I even do with Ladd McConkey at this point?
Yeah,
he found the end zone.
He did almost twice.
Yeah, almost twice. Yeah, once as a returner, which was called back because of penalty. I think you have to hold here. You know, these are the hard ones, whereas a guy is obviously way too good to drop, but you don't want to sell low. So I always say hold here is you hold and you hope that he gets going or the Chargers offense starts to feature him more than Quentin Johnson or Keenan Allen. I know we've had a lot of fun with that video we posted a few weeks ago where people were very mad that we had Ladd third. And I think 2 or 3 weeks later, it still feels like all things being equal.
Yeah.
You would still rank them either probably Quentin Johnson first, then Keenan Allen, then Ladd. I think where some people maybe missed the point of the conversation is that first, second, third is not Quentin Johnson way up here, and then Keenan Allen in the middle, and then Ladd super low. Like, I think there's a very reasonable chance that any of them emerges as the guy for the rest of the season. He is a hold for me, is Ladd McConkey.
If you want to get out of the Ladd McConkey business, you are waiting for a couple of 2 games back to back in which he looks good and finds the end zone.
Yeah.
And then you
got one already in the bank.
Correct. And then you have this opportunity to be like, all right, you know what? I want to get out. Like, that's when you can do it, but you can't do it too quickly. Otherwise, you're just going to be selling cheaper than you need to on Ladd McConkey. I think I'm with you. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel great. You want better advice, but you can't sell them for cheaper money than what you should.
Yeah.
You probably just have to leave him on the bench.
The potential buyer with this. Well, he's had one good week.
And he was really good last year, guys. So, you know, he could be good maybe
so why
again.
are you getting rid of him? Like, this is how the conversation goes, right?
Yep. All right, we got one more question here from our YouTube chat. Last one here for a Tuesday, and this one comes in from our good friend, Jeff Horn. Jeff wants to know, would you play Matthew Stafford or Daniel Jones this week? I might have Matthew Stafford as a borderline top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, I've got Stafford ahead of Daniel Jones in my week 6 rankings. The matchup is just too good to ignore. Matthew Stafford is not as mobile as CJ Stroud, but it's not like CJ Stroud is particularly mobile, and he threw 4 touchdown passes against that Ravens defense. Unless the entire cavalry is back this week for that Ravens defense, I'm starting Matthew Stafford.
And they're not.
They are not.
Yeah, because a couple of them are done.
Yep.
And so the other thing is, I just want to point out, do you remember how people were so worried about Matthew Stafford before the season? Like, it just feels like that has completely evaporated, gone into the ether.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because people were even considering drafting Matthew Stafford. Most people picked him up as a second quarterback, or they started streaming him. It's because of who he was throwing to. And Puka Nacua is just the best fantasy point scorer in all of the land. So that worry about Matthew Stafford, we kept saying, calm down, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Everybody that got Puka with like their 12th to 15th pick for that like week and a half where there was a lot of fear, it's like you got an unbelievable value,
and
my
Matthew
friend.
Stafford's playing lights out football right now.
He
Just so good.
Playing great. Playing great.
Do you remember when he was quarterback for your Lions?
I do. You know what? He played well, but not this well. Honestly, he may have always played this well, but because of all the other stuff going on in the team, it never felt like this. That's the thing. So did you know that Jared Goff has now played more football games for the Detroit Lions than he did for the Los Angeles Rams?
Made me
Crazy
think
to
of
think.
that.
Crazy to think about.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for our Tuesday show. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Today's show is presented by Little Caesars. Don't forget to love each other, be kind to yourself, and go get your waiver claims in for this Tuesday. We'll see you back here on Wednesday.